Let's bring in now Jonathan Schanzer, John, Senior Vice President for Research at Foundation of Defensive Democracies. Jonathan, thank you very much for joining us. I know that in the wake of this news, you sent out a tweet. You said, this is before the confirmation of Sinwar's death. He is now confirmed dead. You said, here's what needs to happen next. Please do share.
Yeah, look, the bottom line is that the only real recognizable leader, maybe two leaders of Hamas, Khalid Meshal and maybe a lesser guy by the name of Hussam Badran, they're based in Doha. The Qataris are purported allies of the United States. We know, of course, the Qataris have been funders of Hamas. They've provided headquarters to Hamas. If they're truly allies to the United States, this is the moment to apply significant pressure on these leaders. They should be forcing them to appear right now on Al Jazeera, declaring their full surrender to the Israelis. This war should be declared over. They should call for the release of the hostages. I think, by the way, we should probably be freezing their assets, maybe extraditing them to the United States or to Israel or to a third country. But this is the moment right now to encircle those leaders and to put them finally on the defensive, make them surrender, make them end this phase of the war. I think you've heard over the course of the last 20 minutes or so, a bunch of different people come on your airwaves talking about how the war will continue, very likely with Hezbollah, very likely with Iran. But this would be an important step, I think, in beginning to close out this war against an axis of aggressors led by the Iranians.
Jonathan, you talked about freezing the assets, even sending them over to the United States. That is interesting for many people who just heard you say that. We were highly anticipating Netanyahu's words as we just got them. Now we could be hearing from leadership here in the United States. We know Vice President Kamala Harris is on the campaign trail. We're told she could be speaking a short time from now. Perhaps she'll remark on the Sinwar news. We also could be hearing from President Biden shortly. What is important in the messaging from America in this moment?
Well, look, I think it's really a tale of 2 days. I mean, yesterday we were hearing from the White House that they were threatening to withhold military assistance to the Israelis because of concerns about what was happening inside the Gaza Strip. They were saying that the way that the Israelis were operating there was perhaps going to lead to some kind of a humanitarian crisis. Now we are waking up to very different news today. The Israelis appear to have gained the upper hand. It really does appear that Hamas's leadership, and look, 23 out of 24 brigades have been destroyed. There's not a lot of heavy fighting left to be done here. I think the administration needs to throw its full support behind Israel right now. Let the world know that they are going to get their support in Gaza, in Lebanon, and against Iran. We are seeing a possible turning of the tide of this war. This administration should be getting on the right side of history. I'm hoping that's what we'll see.
Perhaps they are already beginning, because we understand that Antony Blinken, the Secretary of State, has had a conversation about Sinwar's death with the Prime Minister of Qatar. And we know how influential Qatar is with Hamas leadership. This from Nikki Haley. She said, last year, Yahya Sinwar orchestrated the most brutal terror attack in Israel's history. He did so on Simchat Torah. 1 year later, on the first day of Sukkot, it appears Israel has eliminated him. May good continue to triumph over evil, and may God continue to bless Israel and her people. Obviously, by the celebrations that we see going on the left-hand side of our screen in Tel Aviv, there's a great hope by the Israeli people that this could be a turning point in this war. Do you think it will be?
Look, it's a major psychological victory for the Israelis. The architect of 10/7, the worst terrorist attack on Israeli soil in Israeli history. This guy's dead. By the way, a bunch of other leaders have been killed. There's really, like I've already described, there's very few left at this point that represent the same Hamas that carried out that attack on 10/7. I think what we all need to remember here is that Hamas is a proxy of the Islamic Republic of Iran. So is Hezbollah. So are the Houthis. So are a bunch of those Shiite militias that have been firing on American and Israeli assets across the region out of Iraq and Syria. All of those fronts are still hot. So the war is not likely to end tomorrow. But this is a tactical victory. It's one battle won, it would appear right now, in a series of battles that are being fought across the region. If Israel can press the advantage in Lebanon and continue to pick apart Hezbollah, that's another front that we could see really good news. So what we need to do, again, is we just need to continue to support the Israelis as they wage these battles across the region and ultimately, hopefully, wear down the Iranians. We're obviously still expecting a potential strike from the Israelis in response to those 181 ballistic missiles that were fired a few weeks ago. If that happens soon, on the heels of the news about Sinwar, and as we continue to watch Hezbollah start to break apart, again, we could be starting to see the turning of the tide in this war, and that, again, would be really, really good news. It's exactly what the Israelis need right now. I dare say it's what the West needs to see, what we need to see here in the United States.
All right, Jonathan Schanzer joining us on the very latest on all of this. Thank you.
Thanks, John.